Hello, this is Lisa Russick with the podcast Your Old Psychic, and hey, I just want to welcome you to Season 8, Episode 2. We did our podcast with Rachel White, and, well, we forgot to say, hey, welcome to Season 8, so I thought I'd do a little podcast for you guys just to say, hey, welcome to Season 8. We made 8 seasons, and I'm pretty happy. Well, starting now, we are making 8 seasons. Wait a minute. Have we made 8 seasons? And we're building up to 9 seasons? I'm all confused how that works sometimes. So we're like at 8.2.02. I don't know. We'll see. I think our first season had 1 million episodes, and yes, I still think we're all psychic. Of course I do. I'm starting to forget to ask now. I totally forgot to ask Jennifer of Love. I think it was somebody. Just recently I forgot to ask somebody. It's crazy. So I was just thinking, it's Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. And it is 4:16 a.m. in the morning. And I woke up around 2. I haven't been feeling too good. I had an EDS flare up and I've been laying around being, gee. And so I slept most of the day, and I did some Reiki, and that really helped. And I found that these arthritis BC powders are really helping me out with pain, but man, they keep me up because I woke up at 1 in pain, or 2, sorry. And I took the BC powders, and hey, it's 4:17 a.m. and I'm doing a podcast. Caffeine, my friends. Caffeine, but it's been working really well for my arthritis. It's been working well for my roommate Jesse's arthritis. I don't know if I have arthritis. Whatever's wrong with me, it helps the owies. She has rheumatoid arthritis, and she's only 27. She was diagnosed at 21. I thought that was nuts, and I feel really bad for her. Enough old people talking about health anyway. What I'd like to talk about in this short introduction to Season 8, Episode 2. Well, this is as Episode 2, but it's an introduction to Season 8. It just happens to be Episode 2. I know, I'm over-explaining it. I try to over-explain things to make them simplified. But then again, it just either annoys people or they fade out and go to, like, those meditative places where they see stuff and think about cool things. That's kind of my goal. That's what we'll go with. I went back through old podcasts, and I do not believe I've ever talked about Saint Florian and my experiences with this saint in high school. When I was 15, I was in Philadelphia over the summer, or in the winter at Christmas. I can't remember. It was a Christmas, I think it was winter, or maybe it was the end of the summer. And we went to a Catholic shop. They have gift shops for Catholics do at churches sometimes. And I think this one was just one that was just freestanding Catholic gift shop. And if you've never been in one, they have Bibles and rosaries and incense and these things called holy cards. And if you don't know what a holy card is, it's a picture of a saint on one side, typically, with the name of the saint, and on the back it might have a prayer or says something about what the saint is for. Well, hi again. Well, he says, hi, listeners. This is an audio-only podcast, Gandalf says. And so let me think about what I was just saying. So we were in this Catholic gift store, and the holy cards, I was looking at them. I always liked them, the art and everything. It was very beautiful. It's like that Catholic art, very pretty. Catholic art is very beautiful to me. So, and all of a sudden I just saw this one. It was a saint I'd never heard of called Saint Florian. And I have put him on this holy card on the picture of one of the podcast covers for Spirit Guides, but I never talked about why in that podcast, I don't think. So I will use it again somehow in this podcast cover. So I saw this holy card of Saint Florian, and I just, I don't know, it wasn't like romantic love. It was love at first sight. I was like, I know that saint. That's the saint. I don't know what's up with that saint. And I bought the holy card, and I think my mom bought it. I was going to buy it. And she's like, you're buying a holy card? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I'll get it for you. And I took it home, and I just loved this car. Stared at it all the time. I started praying to Saint Florian. I think I have talked about this at some point, but I used to write in my diary, "Dear SF," and that was "Dear Saint Florian." And I would write him letters, and that was I always had an audience for my diary. Usually, it was just the diary itself had a personality. But once I got that holy card, I started writing on my diary entries to Saint Florian. And I didn't ever want anyone to know about my secret, like, holy pilgrimage with St. Florian, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, but I never talked about him to anyone, really, because it got weird. So I went home, and maybe about a week later, I was digging through a drawer in the kitchen looking for something. I'm living with my parents, 15, and I found a medallion. And it was a Catholic medallion. That's the other kind of thing you can find in a Catholic gift store. It was a Catholic medallion, and on one side it had Saint Michael, and that's Archangel Michael, if you don't know. And on the other side it had Saint Florian. It was just a random medal just laying there in there. I was like, what is that doing there? Where did that come from? And my mom's a Catholic school teacher, and I had gone to Catholic school, so I went to mom. I said, "Where'd this come from? Did you get it at school? Where?" She's like, "I don't know." And I said, "Can I have it?" She says, "Of course." And she didn't make the connection, I don't think, or maybe I did tell her. This is the same saint that was in the Holy. I can't remember if I told her or not. And then the next weird thing that happened was that I was on a math team trip to Florence, Alabama. Now, at this point, I should have put some pieces together. Florence, St. Florian. Well, Florence is about a 45 or 40-minute drive northwest of Decatur, kind of west, kind of northwest. And right before we got to Florence, we were on a bus. I looked out the window and I saw a sign with an arrow pointing, "Take this exit." And it said St. Florian. And I was like, what? There's a town called St. Florian. What? I could not believe it. And, and then I figured out Florence. Oh, St. Florian. There's some kind of, like something here for this saint. And I found out, by then I had found out he was the patron saint of firefighters, which didn't really mean anything to me. But I just thought that was kind of cool. And the Holy Card has a picture of him with an angel pouring water on a burning house. Oh, Gandalf is making out with the microphone. I better give him some love, listeners. One sec. I'm wondering if you're going to be able to hear the cat purring in this audio after I exit, because it's kind of cute. I might leave it in. um, so then another weird thing happened with St. Florian. A lot of weird things happened. When I turned 16, I drove up there to St. Florian, that town, and there was a church called St. Michael, and there was a firehouse right across the street. It's a little picturesque town in the 90s, and I think I went in like 92 or something. And they had the firehouse was just like, oh gosh, it was cherry red, engines, everything was shiny, and everything in the place was beautiful, and the church was just gorgeous. And I walked in, and when you're Catholic, you are given a saint's name that's associated with your name, given from birth. So my name's Lisa, and one of my patron saints is Elizabeth. I can't remember what patron saint stands for exactly or what they do exactly, but they're like your saint that you can call on, your friend or something. And the other one is the one you get when you're confirmed, and you pick that one, and confirmation is when they're like, okay, you really are Catholic because you studied it and you did all the testing and stuff. And you did this, whatever, like the process of getting confirmed. It takes like a year or something when you're already being raised Catholic. So I picked the name Cecilia, and in this church there were like, there goes Gandalf making out with my microphone again. There were stained glass all over this church of Saint Cecilia, Saint Elizabeth, Saint Florian, and Saint Michael, and there were statues of them. And the reason I picked Saint Cecilia is she is the patron saint of music. That's why I picked her. So it was just really magical experience, and I was really wanting to go talk to the pastor in his pastor house. I can't remember what it's called right now. The pastor or the priest. The priest lives in a house. I can't remember what it's called, but next to the church. And I wanted to go over there and ask him, about Saint Florian, but I was too scared, and I never told anyone that I did this. Wrote about it in my diary. I came home, and then about a year later, I bought this. It wasn't a year later, maybe a year later. I bought a statue for my boyfriend at the time, and it was of a dragon and a man slaying this dragon, and I thought it was a really cool statue. And I gave it to him. He's like, "Huh, that's cool." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "That's like Archangel Michael slaying the serpent." And I was like, "What do you mean? What's that mean?" And he told me, and I was like, Archangel Michael, Saint Michael. I was like, that's just so weird. And then it would pop up and pop, like in little things like that, it would pop up. And I associated Michael with Saint Florian, Saint Michael with Saint Florian because of the medallion. So, to me, this was my first experience with, I guess you could say, spirit communication. I think when I was little and playing with my toys, I still remember them, my toys' personalities and some of their names and what they did and who they were in love with and who their kids were and all their relationships and like things they did and what they were like and what they didn't like. And I don't know. It's like, on the last podcast, the imagination, I think Rachel was saying that, maybe it was another podcast. I don't know, but that the imagination really is the key, to doing all of this stuff. And it's something about that feeling you get when you just know there's something more to this and you're afraid to explore it, or are you? Maybe you're not. But when I saw that holy card, I was the only one left too. And I just knew I had to have it. And I still have that same card. But I lost the medallion. I gave it to a friend, and I'm sure I'll never get it back. Um, because, yeah, I gave it to an old friend. So, listeners and watchers, I just wanted to introduce you to this. Levity Season 8. And 8 in numerology is the number of control. No. It's the number of, like, kind of taking control of your own life, being a master of something. And it's being a leader, owning a business, I always think of taking control of your life more than anything. Eights. And, season 8, maybe will take control of your life. Thank you so much for always listening and watching when we have videos. And we have a podcast coming up soon. I think I had to reschedule one today, but we have I think we have one tomorrow with Barbara and she is Miss Albert Einstein's second wife. And Barbara, I can't wait to see you tomorrow if you're listening. And Misty, of course, as always, I love you. And listeners, I love you. And y'all have a good time wherever you may be. Peace out. And this is a PS podcast script. I don't know how that possibly makes sense, but it does. I say so. I want to talk a little bit about when I started this podcast in 2019. I never thought that it would go 8 seasons. I didn't think it would go very far because I didn't know anybody. But, I did have to have a podcast script. I didn't have to, but I wanted to because I didn't thank my sponsor Everclear in the podcast because I slipped my mind. But Everclear is our sponsor, and Everclear is an advice app where you can get advice from psychics and empaths so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And I'm an advisor on there under the name Lisa P. Leesa, and then the letter P. When they became our sponsor, it really helped a lot. I mean, did it by myself, this podcast, for a year, and I only recorded a few episodes, and Misty heard it, and then she contacted me. If you listen to the podcast, you know the story from there. And Misty has been my co-host ever since, I would say middle of summer of 2020. I have met the most amazing people I've ever known in my entire life through this podcast, and even if I just spend 45 minutes talking to them. I feel that way about almost everybody I meet, though. Something about everybody. Everyone has something. This podcast has been a life-changing experience for me. When I started it, it was 2019. I was married with 2 stepsons, and I lived in Decatur, Alabama in a house. And then through the 5 years of this podcast, I have divorced, lost everything, friend-wise, and as far as that old family, they're on too. And my parents are older and they're kind of sick right now, and my grandmother is passing away in hospice. And I'm living in Nashville in an attic with 3 other people I just met, like in March. If you knew me before when I was younger, you'd never believe it. When I was afraid, when I was younger, and it wasn't so much about younger, it was less experienced, less exposed. Expose yourselves, listeners. Expose yourselves to all the points of view. Look at it yourself. Make your own decisions about what you're hearing, what your gut tells you. Keep asking the questions, and if you have bad experiences and learn lessons, that's what it's about, learning lessons, right? Right. That's what the tarot tells us. And through this podcast, in 5 years and 8 seasons, I have fallen in love 3 times. I have uh, fallen out of love. I've been learning my abilities better and better, and because of our podcast guests and my conversations with Misty, I have improved my own skills. And when I meet some of these readers and professionals on the podcast who have been doing this all their lives, I'm so amazed. I'm amazed that they were educated, for one thing, or they educated themselves. And something my ex-boyfriend Eric said, I really like to sum this podcast up with this, and I think it's a great thing he says. He says, I know the secret of life? No, I just know the secret. I said, well, what's the secret? We were talking about, getting yourself out of bad headspace, out of a bad place, and not thinking about things the same way. And he says, people look around for someone to follow them, show them the way to save them. He says, sometimes you have to be your own light. And I said, I totally agree. I totally understand that. I do, guys. You have to be your own light sometimes. And the point is, I think I've given that a lot of thought. And I think the point is, you always have to be your own light. And that's the goal anyway. When you join all the lights together, what do we got? We have no darkness. Everybody have a wonderful time wherever you may be. Peace out.